I think the Eagles will be okay at left tackle, whether we know Milotta's not going to play and however else it shakes out. But you did mention one position where it looks like they're going to be careful and they're going to hold the player out. And that does scare me a little bit, and that's at the nickel corner with Devonta Maddox being out. And a good morning, Football Friday fans. Here on Birds 365, we're here to talk Eagles with you for the next 2 hours. And when I say we, I mean me, Jody McDonald, John McMullen, who is with me in tow right now, but needs to exit stage left to be over to hear what Nick Sirianni is going to have to say before the Eagles get on a big old jet plane and go to Arizona. And then in hour number 2, Barrett Brooks going to jump in for Johnny Mac. Does your car just go without you driving it from your house to the NovaCare?
Sometimes I don't remember the drive. I'm on autopilot. I will say that.
That's what I was asking. You made the way over yesterday. You'll do so again today. Yesterday, again, trying to get Eagles information. Sometimes it's like getting blood out of a stone. But you did get a chance to peek at practice for at least a couple of minutes. Injury updates, Mr. McMullen. What do you got?
Well, I think there's a lot of good news long term, starting with Jordan Milotta. Pretty clear when it first happened, and Jordan spoke to us yesterday that they thought it might be a season-ending injury immediately, and it's not looking that way at all. I don't expect him to play in Arizona. He claims he's still day-to-day. There's a chance. Couple things playing to that from my perspective. One is Dallas is the next week. You want him as healthy as possible for that particular game. But he said it's all about range of motion and strength. Didn't practice yesterday, but as I said, talked to us, very good mood. Not going to be a long-term injury. But I do think Jack Driscoll's going to be the left tackle in Arizona. The other guys I'd be concerned about are Devonta Maddox, who is still out of practice, working on the side field, sprained his ankle in practice last week. I think you might get one more week of Josiah Scott, and obviously Jake Elliott's not going to kick. It's going to be Cameron Dicker, which is interesting because Matt Prater's not going to kick for Arizona. It's going to be Matt Amendola. Could be Dicker the kicker versus strong boy Matt Amendola. You might see a lot of fourth downs, a lot of go for it. The Eagles do that anyway, I would think. But if you need a kick to win a game, you need a kick to win a game, right, Jody. So it might come down to one of those two guys. So those are the three I'd be most concerned about. Patrick Johnson also did not practice with a concussion, and we all know with the Tua stuff, it's going to be very difficult for people to get cleared quickly. Although Kyron Johnson had a concussion, he's back in a limited fashion. So there is still some wiggle room, evidently, with the protocol. But those are the three injuries I'd be most concerned about. The good news, Darius Slay's going to play. And I pretty much said that the day after the game. Isaac Seumalo, big wrap on his ankle, but it looks like he's going to play as well. It's funny because I think it's Isaac's left, and Jason Kelsey's always bandaged up. He's got this big bandage on his right ankle. Isaac Seumalo's standing right next to him. He's got this big bandage on his left ankle, but they're both going to play.
Understood. And the Eagle veterans, AJ Brown gets rest days too, and I don't know. We can call him a veteran yet. He's not a rookie, so if that makes you a veteran, so be it. But he's still only been here about 20 minutes and is a very young guy. So I don't.
A good 20 minutes though, man.
Yeah, damn good 20 minutes. Exactly right. But it's one of those guys that the Eagles put in for rest on Thursday practice, and they had a bunch yesterday, and most of their veterans or previously injured players. But you gave us a good rundown on the guys that either didn't play last week or left last week's game, so we don't know for sure their status going into Sunday versus Arizona. And one scares me more than any of the others, and I'll explain to you why. And it's not, believe it or not, Jordan Milotta, because I thought Driscoll did a nice job. One guy you didn't mention that I do want to get a feel on, if you've got a guesstimate, because I know, again, the Eagles aren't going to lay it out for you. Andre Dillard, cleared to practice, has been practicing. The coach made the comment earlier in the week that he needs to get up to physical speed, been out for a month. So just being cleared to practice doesn't mean he's definitely going to play. But if Jordan Mailata is out, you could use some extra depth along that offensive line. You think Dillard is activated? Do you think he'll be Driscoll's backup? Give me your best guesstimate on Andre Dillard.
He was out there practicing individual drills, taking the second team left tackle reps behind Jack Driscoll. I think, that's one where Nick is telling the truth. If they think he's football ready, if they think, his conditioning's up to par, they might consider activating him just as I don't think he's starting, but I think they're going to start Driscoll. But, if Driscoll, what's the bed, it's nice to have Andre Dillard out there. So I think that comes down to, is he ready? Because, it's 4 weeks, it's a month. You do need a little bit of time to get back into some kind of condition, some kind of football condition. And we can laugh about the practicing. And anyway, I don't know how you do that. Maybe you just throw him in the deep end of the pool, but you throw them into the deep end of the pool, you might as well start them. That's my perspective. So it looks like they're preparing for Jack Driscoll to play left tackle. And that means to me that they probably going to wait a week or two or Andre Dillard, because if he's healthy enough to play, he's got to play left tackle. That's how I look at it.
Well, I think he's healthy enough to play. He's got to play left tackle, but doesn't mean he has to start. That you can go use him as a safety net. Because let's go worst case scenario. Milotta out. Dillard not in the estimation of the Eagles, not good enough to activate, not up to speed enough to activate. Driscoll gets hurt in mid-game. Who's playing left tackle?
Yeah, I mean, they have some versatile pieces. We talked about Josh Sills, his ability to play left tackle a little bit in training camp when they had some injuries in camp. You have the jack of all trades in Isaac Seumalo, who can play anywhere, but he's already dealing with his own ankle injury. My perspective is, if he's healthy enough to play, he's playing left tackle. So,
Okay, so
he's
don't
better.
think Dillard will be held?
He's just better than Jack Driscoll at left tackle.
At left tackle last week.
At left tackle.
When I'll give you Dillard's better when Dillard's 100%. But if Dillard's at 90 and they say, well, 90's better than us putting Sills out there, but we're not going to push it. If Driscoll had played poorly last week, I'd go, I don't care what percent. If Dillard can physically get out there on the field, he's starting. But Driscoll played pretty well. I'm not going into the game worried about him spitting the bed. Now, he might, but I would not handle it that way as far as my evaluation goes. I got no problems Dillard being a backup guy, and I'm more comfortable with him backing up than Sills getting his first ever NFL experience at a position that isn't his natural position as rookie.
Yeah, I mean, but do you want to push Devonta Maddox out there? A lot is Dallas next week. Let's be honest. I mean, a lot of it is about getting guys who are, maybe not quite healthy as up to be as good as possible for the Cowboys game, which is more important. And certainly more important for the Eagles. Now, they don't want to bring that up because you don't want to, I talked about Jalen Hurts and didn't get one question about the Cardinals, and he was trying to Lou Holtz them and talk them up and all that kind of stuff. The Eagles don't want to go down this path, but clearly they're being cautious with certain people. And then the second part is, I think Jack did a wonderful job in a very difficult circumstance. I don't think he played that well at left tackle. I don't think he's a good left tackle. And that's my larger concern. And if Andre's ready to play left tackle, he's playing left tackle if I'm the coach. That's how I would go about it. That's how I would go about it.
No, I give him a better grade for what he did this past week than you do, apparently. I saw no issues whatsoever, and that's a major tip of the cap to a guy who doesn't usually play on the left side and is probably more comfortable at guard than tackle. All those things considered, I thought he was pretty damn good last week.
Yeah. I thought he was fine, and they were firing off the ball as a run blocker. Sua the same way as a pass blocker, and there's probably going to be more passing in this game because of the pristine conditions. Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in him at left tackle, and that's not an insult. I mean, he's a right tackle, he's a right guard by trade. It's a very difficult position to put him in. The Eagles would remember, yeah, I mean, he's their third left tackle, and some you could argue is their fourth left tackle. People forget about Brett Toth as well, who's still on the PUP list. That's better than everybody else's third or fourth left tackle. I'll give you that, but it's not optimal. I would say that as well.
I think the Eagles will be okay at left tackle, whether we know Milotta's not going to play and however else it shakes out. But you did mention one position where it looks like they're going to be careful and they're going to hold the player out. And that does scare me a little bit, and that's at the nickel corner with Devonta Maddox being out. Because one of the guys who scared me coming into this game from a Cardinal perspective is Rondell Moore. If you look up Rondell Moore's stats, you're going to see, Jody, what the hell are you talking about? He hadn't done diddly this year. You're right, because he didn't play the first 3 games. Last week was his first game back. I looked at the numbers yesterday when we had Howard Balls around. I think he had 5 targets for 3 catches and 11 yards or something ridiculously small like that. Don't kid yourself. This kid's a good player, and he was when they drafted him out of Purdue last year. I think he's a very talented slot receiver that just could have used the week to get up to speed with Kyler Murray, has now practiced this week. I think he's a difficult guy to cover. He's a little guy. He's a fast guy. And of the guys who were filling in last week, I would say Josiah Scott was the one who was more victimized than anybody else. And if he's filling in for Devonta Maddox in the slot again this week, the Cardinals have a guy that I think can take advantage of him.
Yeah, I'm not in love with that situation either, to say the least, probably more so. Josiah graded out really poorly, according to Pro Football Focus. So did Jack, but Josiah graded out really poorly. And I think a lot of it didn't show up because of the weather, and Jacksonville wasn't able to throw the football, and they only had
sacks that the ball never got out of. The
exactly.
Quarterback said that you don't know what happened if he was able to deliver the football downfield.
And that's not going to be the case this week. So, that one is an even larger concern because I think Jack's a better player than Josiah. And a little bit surprised the Eagles haven't considered other options. And we asked JG that about moving, and he went to the same route sort of Jeff Stoutland always takes. And you don't want moving parts. You don't want to affect 2 positions to fix 1 position. So they just wanted to put the backup in there. But, they also say, hey, let's get the best 11 players on the field. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there at times. Now, I don't know. Kayvon Wallace is that much better. So I don't know if you want to move Chauncey Gardner, who hasn't been great at safety himself and probably been the worst of the Eagles defenders. They're having a great year. But if you were probably going to rate the 11 starters, he'd probably be number 11.
Agreed.
Not sure where you want to go with Kayvon Wallace, but where I would go is Zach McPherson. Now, last week it wouldn't have mattered because Darius Slay left so early, but Slay's going to be back. Bradbury's going to be back. Kick Zach McPherson in the slot, and I think that's his more natural position anyway. and I just think he's a better player. So I'm a little bit surprised. And then if something happens to Slay, if something happens, you can just kick him back outside and then play Josiah Scott. So that's what I would do. But Eagles don't want those moving parts.
How much time, either practice and or preseason, did McPherson get in the slot at all this offseason?
None. That's the problem. I mean, and they have, and run support is a bigger issue when you're playing slot corner than when you're playing outside. And the Eagles really value corners. So that's probably their default. They probably think Josiah is better at supporting the run inside than Zach. That's my guess. I don't know. Good football players tend to play better than, players. They're better than
lesser football players.
Yes, exactly. So
you and I agree on that. I got to give you one more stat that I know you're going to have a tough time with that I saw this morning. I had no idea was the case. Would you like to guess what the record of the Phoenix, Arizona Cardinals coach is against the NFC East in his 3+ years as the coach of the Cardinals?
I actually know he's never lost to an NFC East team. Never lost.
6-0 against the NFC East.
The great Cliff Kingsbury.
I know you're not a big fan of the Cardinals coach. How do you explain something like that?
Yeah. But football's about, tell me who's healthy that week. Tell me who's not healthy. Give me the context of that particular week. But the Cardinals have been a pretty good team since Cliff Kingsbury's gotten there. Overall, it's not like they've been poorly. This is probably his worst team from a talent perspective he's had at the NFL level. I mean, they had some good players. I mean, when you talk about obviously Kyler, but DeAndre Hopkins when he's out there, Larry Fitzgerald even late in his career. Chandler Jones was one of the best 5 pass rushers in football for years. They Jordan Hicks, our old friend, was there making plays. They had some talent. So Nick Sirianni says, show me a good coach and I'll show you good players. They had better players and the NFC East stunk. So, they generally beat the NFC East.
That's true. The NFC East, which we did call the NFC least from a couple of years ago when the playoff team had a less than 500 record the last time the Commanders were in the playoffs. Yeah, that can come into play. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. J-Mac's going to stick around for hour number 1. Double B, Big B, Barrett Brooks, going to step in for him in hour number 2. We got 2 good guests planned for you. First up is our numero uno guest, doing his writing these days for NJ.com forever for the Daily News. Les Bowen's going to jump aboard with us here on Birds 365 next.